Today's speaker, Trevor Schmidt, first declared he was going to become a lawyer as a fourth grader on a tour of Harvard University during a family vacation. Through his activities at Chadron High School and Chadron State College, he continued along this path. Working in Kreitz, Schaefer, Keneally, Watson Law Office, and Chadron was an experience that further solidified his desire to become an attorney. Trevor is a member of the North Carolina Bar Association, the Triangle Intellectual Property Law Association, and a past member of the International Trademark Association's Internet Committee and the Intellectual Property Constituency of the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. His honors include being named a CSC Distinguished Young Alum in 2016, being included in the Triangle Business Journal's 40 Under 40 list of outstanding professionals for their contributions to the organizations in the Raleigh-Durham area, receiving an AV peer rating by information services companies Martindale-Hubbell, being named a rising star by the Super Lawyers Rating Service, and being listed in the Legal Elite section of Business North Carolina. I am proud to invite Trevor Schmidt to the podium to deliver today's commencement address.
Congratulations to the class of 2019. You're probably wishing right about now that you went to a school with Will Ferrell as an alumni. And you may be wondering, who the heck is this guy? And it's a fair question, and similar to one that I asked when I was first invited back here to speak. Why me? And the conclusion I reached is that it's not really important who I am. I think the idea is that I'm you. Any one of you, just a few years further down the road. You see, 16 years ago, I was sitting, not in this gym, but the one next door, waiting for some other guy to stop talking so I could get my diploma and go celebrate with my friends and family. Since that time, I've chosen my career. I've had some success. I've had some failure. I've had some setbacks and some tremendous leaps forward. But in all these things, I've built upon the foundation of knowledge, skill, and experience that I earned right here at Chadron State. So today, I stand here as a voice from your future, hoping to encourage you. Hoping to encourage you to not miss the opportunities to learn to build skills in your hurry to be successful. To encourage you not to substitute the world's goals for your own goals. And hoping to encourage you to seek to serve. Now, you may still prefer that I was Will Ferrell, but I'll try to make it up for you by keeping my speech under an hour. My office is about 30 to 40 minutes away from my house, and so I've got a bit of a commute. And I try to fill that time by listening to audiobooks or podcasts. And lately I've been listening to a podcast by a guy by the name of J.D. Greer. And he's a pastor of a huge church in North Carolina, but he said something that really stuck with me. He said, "Do not despise the pasture of obscurity." J.D. was discussing an Old Testament story from the Bible about King David. And if you're unfamiliar with the story, David is a poor shepherd boy who's told unexpectedly that he's going to be the king over all of Israel. But from the day he's told he's going to be king to the time he actually becomes king, he goes back to being a shepherd for 7 years, toiling away in forgotten fields. J.D.'s point was that it was in that time of relative obscurity, when he was in the fields, that David developed the trust, the courage, and the convictions that enabled him to be a great king. So don't despise the pastures of obscurity. Many of you today are filled with a tremendous sense of accomplishment and fulfillment, and rightfully so, you're graduating. But tomorrow, or the next day, you'll start the first day of your career, or you'll start the first day of grad school, and you'll be back to the relative obscurity of starting something new. Do not despise this time of obscurity, for this is where skills are built. This is where character and integrity take hold, and this is where your greatness begins. We live in an impatient generation. We want that Instagram moment, the hashtagable event. We want to be noticed now before the world moves on to something shinier. Don't be afraid to put in the time that true greatness requires. Don't be afraid to take the time to dwell in obscurity to build up the skills that you need to accomplish your goals. Obscurity provides a cover that allows you to try new things. When you're not in the spotlight, you have a greater opportunity to make mistakes and to learn the lessons that can only be taught through failure. My legal career has taken me to a number of different positions, from being a baby lawyer at a large regional law firm, to being one of 4 attorneys at a small firm, now to being a partner at one of the most successful entrepreneurial law firms in the Southeast. Each has had its positives and negatives, but each has taught me something different that creates the sum of who I am as a professional today. So I encourage you, wherever you are, whatever stage in your career, take the opportunity to learn from that moment. Observe those around you. Identify those in the position that you want to be. Model their skills and learn the tools that you need to build to get to where you want to be. Success will not come overnight. If it does, it's not success, it's the lottery. Success is built from a supply of experience, a foundation built on education and training, reinforced by lessons of failure and overcoming, and roofed over by a vision of the future. You've already demonstrated your ability to accomplish your goals. In a few minutes, you're going to graduate. You're coming to the end of a long road that brought you to today, but never hesitate to start again, to find that next goal and start working towards it, even if that means stepping back into obscurity for a time. And speaking of goals, don't let others define success for you. It's been my experience that there's never a shortage of people willing to tell you what you need to do with your life. Some people mean well, others just lack imagination. The reality is only you are able to decide when you've made it or you're on the path that you want to be. If you want to be a teacher, don't settle for being a lawyer just because the world tells you you're going to make more money. If you want to own a business, don't settle for running somebody else's because the world tells you there's less risk. If you want to stay at home and pour yourself into your kids, don't give that up because the world tells you that value can only be found outside the home. And I'm talking to you dads, too. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that you use this idea as a cover not to try to be your best self. If you were to tell me that success for you was sitting in your basement, eating Cheetos and watching 10 hours of Rick and Morty every day, I might suggest you listen to the world a little bit more. But if you've identified what it is that makes you your best self, don't let anyone else substitute their vision of you. Do you want to know what I'm most proud of? It's not graduating from college. It's not graduating from law school. It's not making partner at a law firm or any of the deals that I've worked on. It's my family. It's being married to my best friend in the world. The fact that I have an active relationship with my kids, that I'm home for dinner almost every night at 6, that I have a chance to hear about their day. That's what success looks like for me. Over time, there have been people that I work with that say, that's crazy, because being home means that I have to leave the office a little bit earlier. It means that I may not go to as many networking events or meet as many new clients. I may never have the biggest book of business at our law firm, or it means that I have to work a little later into the night to make sure that all the work gets done. But long ago, I decided that my family was going to be how I define success. Now, you too may think I'm crazy. Success for you may mean not stopping until you're at the very top of your chosen profession. It may mean great wealth or security. It may mean a hunting cabin or a boat, the chance to travel the world or being famous, or maybe just a quiet night at home. Whatever it is, only you should define it. Because if you don't, others will. When I was a senior at Chadron State, I was the president of Student Senate. And in that role, I had to give a presentation at the faculty luncheon during the first week of school. It was not a task I was really looking forward to, standing in front of all of my professors and giving a speech. But I think I'd finally decided what I wanted to say. We had gone through a rough couple of years at Chadron State. There'd been some severe budget cuts, and it looked like there was some more on the way, and the moods of the students was pretty down. So our team on Student Senate had decided that we needed to address this, and that we were really going to focus on student morale that semester. So I worked this into my presentation to the faculty. And the big day came, and I stood in the ballroom in front of all of the faculty, and the speech was going great. I was really hitting my stride. We were talking about the budget cuts and where things were going. And I looked out on the crowd, and I said, so this semester, we at Student Senate are going to focus on improving student morality. The faculty started to chuckle, and quickly realizing the slip of my tongue, I said, well, Since we only have a semester, morality may be too high of an ask, so we'll just focus on student morale instead. I tell this story because in some ways I feel that we as a country have a bit of a morale problem right now. And while there may be many culprits, I want to talk about some that I believe that are completely within our control and offer what I see as the solution. Generally, I think our society suffers from a bit of a cult of individualism, where I or me has become more important than you or we. The virtues of self-sufficiency and personal responsibility have been corrupted into a toxic narcissism, or at best, personal isolationism. And while these tendencies have been there for years, I believe they have been accelerated by social media. These amazing technological tools that can be used to learn about others, to stay connected with dispersed friends and family, and to meet new people, have become mechanisms of self-promotion and selective grouping, and all too often result in an echo chamber where our own ideas and fears are reflected back to us. And perhaps as a result, we also seem to have lost the ability to talk with each other about issues about which we disagree. We've lost the ability to fundamentally disagree on a matter of great importance, to a passionately held belief and yet still remain friends. It's become increasingly rare to be able to argue against an idea without vilifying the individual who holds the belief, to disagree without despising. And so we fall into a dangerous cycle of surrounding ourselves with like-minded people, and those who don't agree are either irrelevant or targeted as another. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should hesitate to call out evil when you see it, but don't mistake somebody having a different opinion for being evil. We need a return to empathy. We need to see ourselves in those we encounter, and especially in those with which we disagree. At a minimum, we need to see the basic humanity of others. We must return to engaging with ideas and stop engaging with petty name-calling. And while there are exceptions, it's been my experience that most people who disagree with me aren't monsters. They don't disagree with me because they hate me or they hate life and want to kick puppies. They're struggling with the same issues and challenges that face me, that face our communities, that face our nation, and they just may come at the problem differently than I do. I encourage you to have the confidence to consider the possibility that you might be wrong. Give people the benefit of the doubt. And the best way that I know how to challenge this sense of individualism and this lack of empathy is to seek to serve other people. And that's the challenge that I would like to leave you with today. In whatever you do, in whatever profession that you pursue, seek to serve other people. When we are seeking to meet the needs of others, we have to know enough about that person to identify what it is that they want. When we share with somebody else's struggles, it's easier to see ourselves in that person. And when we open ourselves up to the pain and suffering of another person, we have a chance, if just for a moment, to glimpse beyond ourselves and see the world from their perspective. Now, this may be a silly question considering the audience, but has anybody ever taken a selfie? Come on. Thank you. I'm not generally against the medium, but you know what the problem with the selfie is? Watch this. I'm going to take a picture with my 242 closest new friends. Everybody wave. You know what the problem with this picture is? You can't see this picture. There's no way you'll know. The problem with this picture is that my head and this silly hat take up like 40% of the picture. There's just not enough room for everybody else here. And in many ways, I feel like our lives are like that. If our focus is inward, we tend to take up too much room. When we turn the focus of our lives around from that inward-facing camera, our total perspective changes. We don't take up as much room anymore. We make more room for the rest of the world. So whatever career you choose, whatever way you choose to define success, find ways to help others. Lend a hand to your neighbor. Join an organization that helps other people less fortunate than you. Build a house with Habitat for Humanity. Foster a child. Visit nursing homes. Carry groceries for people who can't carry them out of the store. Offer to babysit for that single parent down the street. And when the floods come or natural disaster strikes, fill sandbags, send hay, cook meals, open up your homes as a place to stay. There are so many needs and so many opportunities to serve. If we can do this, If we can change our default position to a posture of service, we have an opportunity to move mountains. Mountains of poverty, mountains of prejudice, mountains of addiction, and mountains of loneliness and despair. Class of 2019, let it start with you. In a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, it said, "The purpose of life is not to be happy. It's to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well." We all have an opportunity to make some difference, but it's unlikely to come when we're just looking at ourselves. One last parting shot before I go. Never apologize for who you are and where you came from. I had the great privilege to grow up right here in Chadron. I had the great privilege to graduate from Chadron State College. And you may meet people someday who've never been to Nebraska, never met anybody from Nebraska, never heard of Chadron State. Be their first impression and blow their doors off. It's your time now, class of 2019. And who knows, in 16 years, this mic might be yours. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Congratulations.